Okay, hi guys. Today we have Jo Howarth from the Happiness Club. Jo, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, my darling. How are you?
I am good. So Jo is a wonderful human. She's amazing. She gives the best hugs, but more importantly, she does a lot of work with anxiety and she helps people who feel a bit crap to feel less crap. I think that's a fairly accurate description of what you do.
Nicely in a sentence. Yeah, I mean, by trade, I'm an advanced hypnotherapist, not a normal hypnotherapist, an advanced hypnotherapist, and a mindfulness practitioner. So I use those two practices, sort of blend them together in everything that I do, whether it's working with someone one-to-one or running a workshop, which are now webinars, obviously, or running the Happiness Club itself. So yeah, it's a lot of what I do is mindfulness based.
So I invited Jo here to talk today because she has some magical things up her sleeve when it comes about anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, and of course, in this situation, we're all in unprecedented territory together. So Jo's going to talk us through a couple of techniques, and I'm just going to give the floor to Jo because she's amazing. I could just listen to her talk for hours. So.
Don't tempt me because I can go on for hours. So okay, so in terms of anxiety, stress and anxiety is where I come from. That's what I used to experience in huge levels myself personally, however many years ago, because I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But for me, anxiety is it's a future-based emotion. Okay, so when we're in anxiety, we're not in the present moment. We're not in reality right here now in this moment. We are living at some point in the future. We have allowed our mind to go wandering off down probably about 60 billion different paths, all of which have a disastrous ending. There might be one out of those 60 billion that has some glimmer of hope, but all the rest of them are the worst catastrophes you could ever imagine. And basically our subconscious mind has no concept of past, present, future. So if you spend your time imagining all these disastrous activities, what your subconscious mind will do is supply the emotion that goes, it just assumes that that's your reality right now, and it will supply the emotion to go with that disaster, okay? And anxiety is quite a common one because anxiety's job is to alert you to danger. So if what you're doing is catastrophizing in here, anxiety will very often make an appearance because it's going, oh, stop. Oh, hang on a minute. No, you have to stop. Please, because you're in danger. You're in danger. It's trying to tell you you're in danger. Okay. I very much, obviously we talk about positive emotions and negative emotions. For me, actually, there are no negative emotions. There are emotions that don't feel very nice. Anxiety is one of them. But I don't see anything negative in any emotion because they all have a job to do. Every single one of your emotions is there to tell you something, to deliver a message, to signpost you on, to move you down a path in some way. All of your emotions have a job to do, including the ones that don't feel very nice. But because they don't feel very nice, what we tend to do as human beings is try not to feel them, because we don't want to not feel very nice. So we go, I can't see you. We go like this, I can't see you and I can't feel you and you're not there and it's fine, everything's fine. And we try and push through and soldier on and all of that rubbish. And we push back against that emotion. And that's actually where the suffering is, where the hurt is, where the pain is in that resistance, is in that pushing against. Whereas if we can get ourselves to a point of acceptance where we go, oh, okay, anxiety's here. That must mean I'm making something up in my head that isn't real, that isn't actually happening right now. Why are you here, anxiety? What message have you got for me? If you allow that emotion to deliver its message, then 9 times out of 10, it will dissipate by itself really easily.
So is it like breaking that feedback loop of you're in a situation, you're feeling upset or anxious, and if you don't just let it play its course, that's where it kind of comes from?
Yeah, So I had a day last week. I didn't feel anxious. I felt sad. I woke up in the morning and I just felt, when you feel that devastated kind of sadness. And because of the work I do, because I work in energy as well as people's subconscious minds, I really feel like it wasn't just my sadness I was feeling like the entire world's sadness. And the old me would have gone, oh no, I don't like feeling sad. I can't feel sad. I must try and make myself feel happy right now. What can I do to make myself feel happy? Quick, run away from the sadness, right? But actually what that does is make the sadness chase you. You know what I mean? Same with anxiety. What it does is it makes the emotion chase you. So one of the things we do at the Happiness Club is we run a 4-week schools program. Okay, so we go into schools, we work with kids from 4 to 18 and the teachers that teach them. And so imagine me standing in front of a classroom of 35 6-year-olds, right? And I'll ask them a question. I'm very glad I'm not a teacher, by the way. I take my hat off to teachers. I'll ask them a question and half the class will put their hand up because they want to answer. Now, I don't have time to go and let every single child that's put their hand up answer the question. So I've got to pick 5 or 6 kids, right? And there's always one child, at least one child, normally sat at the back, who's put their hand up very politely. And then when I don't pick them, their hand goes up a bit. And then when I still don't pick them, their hand goes up like this. And then they start going like this. And then they start waving. And then they start jumping up and down in their place. And by the time I haven't picked them for the 5th time, they're nearly exploding because they really want me to pick them. And they really want to tell the class what their brilliant thing is. And I think your emotions are exactly the same. The more we ignore them and don't pick them, the more they just bang on your door and say, no, I'm sorry, you haven't heard me. You haven't listened, so I'm just going to get louder. I'm going to put my hand up even harder, and I'm going to jump up and down in my seat until you notice me, because it has a message to deliver. So, and whichever emotion you're dealing with. So like I say, when I felt sad last week, if I had tried to make myself feel happy, that sadness just would have overwhelmed me. So what I did was I gave into it. I allowed it to be there. This is what, when we hear the catchphrase at the moment, it's okay not to be okay. And a lot of people are, okay, all right, that's fine, but I don't feel okay. So, but it doesn't feel like it's okay not to be okay. But actually what you have to do is, in my opinion, it's only my opinion, is to allow yourself to go through that emotion, to allow that emotion to go through you, to allow it to flow through you, which is what I did last Thursday. I cancelled my day. I spent time with my children. I cried buckets. I had a bath for 2 hours. I meditated. I just allowed myself to feel whatever wanted to come through me. And I woke up the next day feeling back to normal, whatever normal is, good and happy and content, and still do, have done it ever since. But if I woke up tomorrow and felt whatever negative emotion I feel, my practice now is to allow that, is to accept it. This is how I feel, so I'm going to allow it and I'm going to let it flow through me. There's a very famous children's book called Going on a Bear Hunt. It's about a group of kids that go on a bear hunt, obviously, but they come up against different challenges as they go on this bear hunt. So they come up to a forest, and the book says you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you can't go round it, you have to go through it. And then they come up to this like storm, and it says you can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go round it, you have to go through it. And every challenge that they come up against, that's what it says. And for me, that book is absolutely about emotions, because that's what we have to do. We have to go through them to come out the other side of them. If you try and avoid it or swerve it, it'll just come back at some other point probably, but it'll just come back stronger. So one of the best ways that I know of to deal with anxiety is the practice of mindfulness. I know I'm biased, but mindfulness is absolutely what brought me through the other side of my own anxiety. And one of the most powerful tools in the mindfulness toolbox is your breath. So we all have obviously breath.
It's a good job.
It's completely free. It is at our disposal any old time we like, and none of us are taught how to use it for anything. I was going to say for anything useful, although being alive is quite useful.
For some people.
Yeah. So actually, one of the key techniques that I teach people is what I call the snapback breath, because your breath is, there is nothing more in the moment. So when you're with anxiety, you've allowed yourself to run away into the future, a future that isn't actually happening. Okay. So what we want to do is bring ourselves back to the present moment. And the best, simplest way to do that is to use your breathing to snap you straight back. So as soon as you realize that you've gone off on one, you just bring all of your attention to your breath. I'm pointing at my nose because I focus on my nose when I'm focusing on my breathing, because I breathe in through my nose. So, but you don't have to do that. But just bring all of your attention to your breath. Okay, and you said your nose then. To your breath. So every breath in is a moment in time. Every breath out is a moment in time. So just for 2 or 3 breaths, just focus, close your eyes because it helps you focus inwardly more, and just put all of your attention on your breath. What that does is snap you back into the present moment. Once you've calmed yourself down doing that, what I would then ask you to do is to actually, and I did this last week when I was struggling, is to actually sit and have a chat. Sounds slightly crazy, but sit and have a chat with the anxiety or the sadness or the whatever the emotion is. Actually, I close my eyes and I imagine I can see myself around a coffee table with the emotion. We have a cup of tea and I say to it, right, come on, tell me what you need to tell me. And I just let the answer come to me. Tell me what I need to know. Because it needs to deliver its message. So you want to be able to give, and 9 times out of 10 with anxiety, I am generalizing, but 9 times out of 10, it will be danger. You're in danger, but you're in danger because of something you've made up. Does that make sense?
So it's a big loop. So you end up going down a little bit of a pathway because you create a scenario in your head. So then you're starting to feel anxiety because your brain thinks you're in danger when you're perhaps not. And then because you're feeling anxious, you're getting these emotions like maybe sadness, maybe anger, and then you're getting carried away again because you're coming back to these emotions and it's just escalating and going on and on. So the best thing to do is to break that feedback loop and to ground yourself. Now, what would you say to people who might be afraid to feel those emotions? I know that quite a few people are afraid. We're afraid to feel sadness. We are afraid to feel anger because we've been told that they're not good emotions to have and we should always be happy and cheerful. But then remember, it's okay to not be okay, but be happy and be cheerful. So I think sometimes that message can get lost. So what advice would you give to someone who might be afraid to just feel sad or angry?
So that's a very good question, because there are a lot of people, as again, we're not taught at a young age how to manage our different emotions. And obviously kids are way more open to feeling what they feel in the moment. They do it naturally. If you want a demonstration of mindfulness in life, watch a child, watch a 5-year-old. They do it naturally. I can remember it absolutely nonplussing me when my two are 12 and 10 now, but when my eldest was 2 and hit the tantrum phase, then she would have a tantrum and literally be screaming the house down, and 30 seconds later she'd be running around laughing her head off. It does come across as slightly mad, but basically she was totally in the moment. Right, I've had my tantrum, I've got it out my system, now I can be happy. And that absolutely is the process. It just takes us a bit longer as adults. And like you say, the adults that are around us when we're kids and having those tantrums, 9 times out of 10 will try and stop it. Try and stop us feeling angry or stop us feeling upset. Don't, hug, don't cry, don't cry. No, do cry. My husband thinks I'm crazy. Lots of people think I'm crazy, but because because I will actively encourage my children to get it out of them. If they feel upset, I will just let them cry for as long as they need to cry, because I don't want them to hold it inside. So yes, sorry, I've gone off on a Jo tangent, but in terms of being scared of feeling those emotions, that's the reasons why you feel scared of them, because that's the conditioning that you've experienced. You've been told not to. You've been told they're bad. So I would ask you really to remember what I've said, to remember that all it is, it's like the postman delivering a letter, right? That's literally, the emotion just wants to tell you something. It just wants to deliver you a message. So for me, that helps me when I'm facing a difficult emotion, to remember that that's all it's there for. That's all it needs to do. It doesn't need to hang around. It doesn't need to stay. The only reason it would need to hang around is if I ignore it, which it then gives me the courage to turn towards it, to move towards it. So I would ask people to remember that, but also to allow yourself, to give yourself permission. Again, we grow up in this authoritarian way where we get permission to do anything from the grown-ups around us. So then we become grown-ups and we're still waiting for someone to give us permission to do whatever and feel whatever. But actually you can do it yourself. You can give yourself permission. Allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, and know that whatever that is, that's fine. If it's anger, that's fine. Anger for me is normally masking something else. There's normally something underneath anger, like fear or panic. So be honest with yourself as well, but allow it, give yourself permission. And if you struggle to give yourself permission, message me and I'll give you
permission. She'll also give you permission in a very, very nice way. She's very Now, what would you say to women who perhaps have had children and feel like they can't take that time for themselves, or they can't allow themselves to feel because they have to appear strong? And conditioning, like as British people, for some reason we seem to see sadness and crying as a sign of weakness, which is not. I don't agree with, but for some women that, or for some people even, that has been drilled into them from a very young age, that if you cry you're weak. So how would you, or what would you tell them that it's okay to cry? I'm not phrased that very well, but I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say.
I do. Because I've had this exact conversation with a few contacts of mine who've messaged me over the last week. It seems to be a recurring theme at the moment. People that I know, and they actually are all women, that have contacted me to say exactly that. I've got small children. I feel desperate or sad or anxious, and I can't show that because I don't want to scare my children. And my response to them all has been the same. It's been to say, but by holding it in and by not showing it to your children, you are perpetuating that conditioning that we don't show our emotions, that it's not okay to feel like this. So yeah, when I was crying last week, I cried in front of my girls. I absolutely cried in front of my girls. They're 12 and 10, so they're not easily scared, let's put it, apart from spiders. But do you know what? Whenever I show my emotions in that way in front of my children, do you know what I get back? Love. I get love. I get hugs. I get reassurance. I get, my 10-year-old especially is, it's okay, mummy, it'll be fine, and blah, blah, blah. It gives them, what it does is it shows them that it's normal to feel like this, which isn't scary. It shows them that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling and to release it, to deal with it. And what you're teaching them how to deal with it themselves by demonstrating to them. And actually you're giving them the opportunity to be the carer, to be the person that reassures you, that gives you love, because they adore you. So, there's no question of that. So you actually, I flip that whole thing on its head and say, actually what you're doing is you're doing them the most massive favor by being honest about how you're feeling. You know, and the thing is, if we cover it up, it still affects our behavior. It still affects the way we speak to people and the things we do. But if you haven't explained it to your children, children are totally egocentric, and what they will do is turn it in on themselves. They will just assume that they've done something wrong, because that's their default setting. It has to be about me, because the whole world is about them when they're little. So again, actually what you're doing by sharing with them, do you know what, mummy feels anxious, and when I feel anxious it makes me feel this, this and this, and it might make me behave like this. What that does is allow them not to take it on for themselves.
And that's really, really important to hear, that it's okay to show your children that you are sad, that you are scared. It doesn't mean that you are weak. It doesn't mean that you are anything else apart from an amazing parent and completely human. So if anyone's listening to this and let's say they're feeling really overwhelmed, they're feeling a lot of fear, they're feeling a lot of anxiety around the current situation, apart from grounding themselves and making themselves really present in their body, what's one thing that you could tell them to do that would maybe not help, but can help just change that mindset, that feedback loop slightly?
Okay, so the absolute number one thing I would say, once you've grounded yourself and had that chat with the emotion, is to practice appreciation. So there's loads of different ways you can do that. You can say out loud or write down as many things as you can think of that you have in your life that you're thankful for. Just list them, reel them off, get them out your mouth or onto paper. Or you can find something that you find beautiful. So, and it can be anything. I have a painting on my office wall over there, which is the daughter of a friend of mine painted, and it takes my breath away every time I look at it. So it might be a painting, it might be a flower, it might be a pet. One of my cats, Sparkle, is the most beautiful cat ever created. So if I ever feel like I need to appreciate something, I will just, she does think I'm crackers, but I will just stare at her. Your children, the faces of your children, anything at all that you find beautiful, fix your attention on it for as long as you can, really, 2 or 3 minutes, longer if you can, but really focus all your attention on it. So see every colour, every shape, every shade. Just really immerse yourself in the beauty of that thing and appreciate it. Just for a few minutes, it will pull you out. It will pull you out of that funk, if that's the right word.
What a beautiful thing that is. Just being present, just looking at something and just enjoying it. Like, we really don't do that very often, do we? So where can people find you and where can they get more of you?
Okay, so the website is thehappinessclub.co.uk. If you want to contact me, Jo at thehappinessclub.co.uk, J-O without an E. I'm on all social media that you can imagine. On Facebook, I'm Jo Happiness Howarth. On LinkedIn, I'm Jo Happiness Howarth. On other things, I'm just plain old Jo Howarth.
There is nothing plain about you, Jo. Absolutely nothing. So Jo runs the Happiness Club, where you get access, and is it to therapists? Is that correct?
Yeah. So the club itself, the online club, is you as a member, you receive a daily message which contains a strategy, a tool, a technique, something that's designed to help you with your mindset, with your mental well-being every day. And you get 24/7 access to either me or one of my team, qualified counsellors and therapists, so that it's designed not to be full-blown therapy, but ad hoc in the moment. So, you know, we've talked people through panic attacks at 10 o'clock at night, and actually a couple of times in the last week through suicidal thoughts, while I was sat watching a film with my children, you know, because mental health doesn't wait until your next appointment with your therapist. It happens when it happens. So the idea is that the club is there to help you as and when you need it.
Perfect. So if you are struggling, if you do need any help, then Jo is absolutely there for you, and that's thehappinessclub.co.uk. So I want to thank Jo for being here and for giving us her time today, and we will see her on a podcast very soon.
Very much.